Business Focus with Kudzie, Sharara on the Champions League Breakfast.
Good morning and welcome to Business Focus, where we discuss a lot of things happening in the world of business. Feel free to also come through on our WhatsApp platform 0719 100 404 with your questions or comments to do with Business Focus, as always with Kudzie Sharara. Good morning to you, Kudzie. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Tinashe. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you so much, Kudzie. Let's begin by rewinding to yesterday, the 7th of July, 2025, the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange trading update.
Thank you, Tinashe. So, briefly, it was a down day with all share index losing 0.32%. The top 10 index coming off by 0.88%. The Victoria Falls Stock Exchange also down by 0.32%. So, we continue to see those marginal gains and losses with the market largely trading sideways. There's ZSC, for example, all share index is down by a negative 9.71% since the beginning of the year, which is slightly lower than at some point it was down by 14%, but it seems like it made some slight recovery there, and it's only down by 9.71%. Hopefully it can continue on that trajectory and probably close the year at least flat than in the negative. And then when you look at the VFX, year to date is up by 4.08%. So those are the gains that those who invested on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange have gained on average. Although there are some counters that have done pretty well and some that have done really bad. But if you look at that overall VFX gain of about 4.08%, obviously you can see that it is below inflation. So you're not making real gains there if you are on the average of 4.08%. Because if you look at USD inflation, probably on a year-to-date basis, you're probably around the same level of about around 4%. But if you look at it from a year-on-year basis, the VFX is actually down. So no real gains in real terms. Just talking about the top risers and fallers for the day, there were only 3 companies that recorded gains. That's First Mutual Property, which added 13.53%, followed by EcoCash, also putting on about 2.98%. Although EcoCash is still one of the biggest losers on the ZSC with a 53.4% drop. That's EcoCash. We know the company is currently under, it recently went on a transition where some of the units that were part of the EcoCash holdings have since moved back to Econet. The company also has a new shareholder in Tawanda Nyambirai, who is also making some changes, including the name change to TN Cybertech Bank. And we await the rebranding of that, and also maybe starting to see what sort of changes are they going to implement at the company, the holding company, which has Stuart Bank as its main unit. And then also down is also up rather slightly is Citco, up by 0.52%. We saw Citco results coming out last week, showing that there was massive recovery in terms of volumes, growing by 52%. Obviously, I'm saying it's recovery because we're coming from a drought year where maize seed volumes were lower if farmers didn't take to the fields as much as they do. Then on the downside, CBZ, biggest loser there with a 7.45% drop. CBZ, at some point they wanted to acquire ZB Financial Holdings, but the deal fell through. They also wanted to acquire an additional stake in First Mutual Life, and the deal also fell through. But we've seen them making some moves, especially in the property market with their Northgate development in Borodale, around the Borodale area, Heathcliff area, and that's Northgate where CBZ is doing a significant property development. There, South Africa also down by 6.7%. We also saw their results coming just a few weeks ago. General Buildings also coming off by 4.76%. First Life dropping 3.74%. OK Zimbabwe shedding 1.58%. We still await to see the latest development that OK Zimbabwe. The stores are not yet fully stocked as the company looks to raise capital, where they would be raising around 20 million from their shareholder, current shareholders, through a rights issue, and also selling some properties to raise the 30 million that the company requires. And the news has been that we've seen in the papers is that the current board might be leaving office soon. And so we continue to monitor what's happening at OK Zimbabwe. But it's one of the biggest losers so far in the year, with a 47.1% drop, as the company continues to look for ways of recovering. And then also, in terms of where investors were putting their money, Delta about 1.9 million, Zig worth of shares changing hands there. Nothing much went into other counters. Zerechel getting just about 176,000, Econet 82,000, CBZ 45,000, and Fixed Mutual Property 19,000. So not much money going into the market yesterday. So that's probably the update from the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. Although the VFX with its margin of 0.32% following and 0.32% loss following losses in Axia, First Capital Bank, Insco, and Kadenga. So that's how the markets traded yesterday.
All right, Kudzie, thank you so much for that update. There is a question here on WhatsApp from Setups pa Arcadia. Hanzi ndiri mutakshop mangu. Hanzi ini mubvunzo wangu ndiwowo hauchinje wekuti seiko kana muchiti Zimbabwe inointroduce billions worth of gold. Sei gold backed currency yacho yakadonha kubva ku 13 point something kusvika patiri apa 40 zig something. That's a question from Setups in Hanzi ndiri mutakshop mangu pa Arcadia.
Thank you for that question. I think, and this is my opinion, when the ZIG was introduced, the challenge was that even for people that can access foreign currency at the interbank market, it's not everybody that can access foreign currency at the interbank market. Some are excluded from accessing that money, and those that you exclude, for example, someone who is looking for US dollars to pay their rentals. Someone who doesn't have a properly registered business but is looking for US dollars. Again, those people, if they've got big, they have challenges or still have challenges in accessing foreign currency unless they generate that foreign currency from their own self. But if they are dealing in ZIG, receiving payments in ZIG, those people, if they are excluded from the interbank market, they'll then look for other sources of foreign currency. And at that point, when the ZIG was devalued, those who were excluded from the formal system had to go to the parallel market, the alternative market, and that resulted in the rates on the parallel market being pushed higher. There was also the issue of confidence that was also there, and that resulted in the exchange rate being depreciating on the parallel market. And then the Reserve Bank, obviously seeing the wider gap that was there, when there is a wider gap between the official and the parallel market exchange rate, even those who have been trading using the formal system, for example, exporters that would be trading using the formal system, they'll feel short-changed because there is a market elsewhere that is offering them better returns for their forex earnings. So that so the Reserve Bank also following through and also depreciating or devaluing the local currency from that 13 ZIG to the dollar that he's talking about to the 24 at the time of devaluation. I think it was around 24, and now it's about 26.89. That's the exchange rate. So that was the reason why there was that devaluation, despite the fact that the ZIG is backed by gold, 3 times cover of that. But for as long as there are some people who earn ZIG and they are not getting the foreign currency that they need, they will turn to other markets, the alternative market, the parallel market, to look for that money, and that might push the exchange rate, despite the fact that it is backed by gold. It's like, maybe I can give you an example. If, for example, Tinashe, you've got bread in your house, and then you tell your, let's say, for a stepson, and that stepson is not allowed to eat that bread. Only your children eat that bread. The stepson will go next door and start looking for bread from next door. And people saying, but Tinashe is always saying that he has got bread in his house. How come his stepson is coming here to look for bread? That's what then happened.
All right, hopefully set up some takada minimum packet ya mapinduru hapo. Let's move on to the next segment as well. You've got a question to Kudzie?
Yes,
right.
Good.
Okay.
Yes.
So pane company ndakaona iri South Africa nemuno Zimbabwe. Company is a food outlet. Their burger in Zimbabwe is going for $4.50, $5 there. Burger are $4.50, $5 there. In South Africa, it's going for 59 rands, 99, which is about 60 rands. Converted, that 60 rands is less than $3. But it's the same burger and chips. Yeah. Same product, same company, different prices.
So there's something that we always talk about, Pakistani, that is called the cost of doing business, as well as the ease of doing business. So when you look at the cost of doing business, let's say that burger, obviously the rolls that are used to produce that burger, at what cost are they being produced here in Zimbabwe versus in South Africa? Whatever the ingredients or that are put in that burger, whether it is meat, whether it is chicken, in Zimbabwe, how much is that chicken costing versus in South Africa? I'll give you an example. Milk in South Africa is at farm gate. At the farm, you can get it for less than 30 cents. But in Zimbabwe, you get it above 60 cents. So if milk was part of the making of that burger, then obviously the cost of the price of that burger here in Zimbabwe will be more expensive than in South Africa. So it comes down to the cost of doing business. It's expensive to make that burger here in Zimbabwe than they can make it in South Africa. I know one company that came and established base in Zimbabwe. They wanted to bring the chickens, the potatoes, and everything from South Africa because they believed that they were cheaper in South Africa than here in Zimbabwe. Obviously, it wasn't allowed to do that, but it meant prices here in Zimbabwe were more expensive than those in South Africa. It's the cost of doing business. For another good example, if the maker of that burger, Pakistani, is going to borrow money to make that burger in South Africa, the cost of borrowing in South Africa is cheaper than the cost of borrowing in Zimbabwe. So again, the price of that burger will be different.
All right, Kudzie, thank you so much. Just about 3 minutes to go. Let's try to squeeze in corporates that are making it into the news.
Yeah, there are a few that are in the news. One of them is Wildell, the brick maker, which seems to be struggling in terms of revenue for the half year to March, or half year to March at 6 million in 2024, coming down to 3 million in 2025. And they're saying that 48% decline was driven by a 30% reduction in volumes resulting from working capital constraints that limited production. So this is a company that is struggling for working capital. One would assume that they could go to the bank and borrow money so that they can fund the working capital. But maybe they're finding money that is found at the bank to be expensive for them to continue to produce profitably. I know Mr. The CEO normally listens to Business Focus. Maybe we chip in with more explanations as to why the company is struggling with or is facing working capital constraints. And there was also a 26% drop in average prices due to intensified market competition. So you've got Wildell, which is probably a formally registered business and paying all the necessary costs. Then you've got Musiama there. I know some of our companies, Chinese companies that are now into brick making here in Zimbabwe, and probably some of them might not be formally registered, or maybe they've got better equipment to use and they are selling their bricks cheaper. And maybe Wilde was used to a market where they were the dominant player, but now there are many other players that are in that sector, and the competition has increased, and volumes for Wilde have dropped 26%. 26%. The prices, they've had to reduce their prices the resulting in a 26% drop in the average price. So these are the market dynamics that is affecting one of the listed companies, that's Wheeldale. And then another company that is in the news is First Mutual, giving us their trading update for the period quarter to March 2025, where they're saying that insurance revenue went up by 17%, whilst the rental income went up by 7%, although profitability was 44% lower at 2.2 million versus 3.7 million US dollars. So these are some of the companies that are making it into the news this morning.
All right, well said, Kudzie. Thank you so much. Let's discuss tomorrow the tobacco selling season, just to look at the current updates. Let's begin with that tomorrow. Thank you so much for today. Have yourself a great Tuesday.
Thank you, Tinash.
Business Focus with Kudzie Sharara on the Champions League Breakfast.